Mr. Gourn asks, what is the first movie you ever watched? I have in Tarrytown, New York, on the main drag of North Tarrytown, which is now Sleepy Hollow, New York, is Beekman Avenue. There's Beekman Avenue and then there's Main Street. And right in the middle of Beekman Avenue, next to the Morse school where I went, was the Strand Theater. And it's no longer a theater. It's probably been about 40 different businesses in the last 40, 50 years. But when I was a kid, it was an actual movie theater. And I remember seeing Sinbad, The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad there with my dad. And when did that come out? 73, 72? I mean, I'm not much older than 6 or 7 years old. And that is my earliest memory of seeing a movie in the theater is, seeing Ray Harryhausen's incredible work. And I remember being absolutely terrified, but like good terrified. Like, oh, this is, it's hard to overstate how powerful the imagery from a movie like Sinbad is to a 6-year-old brain. Those things made real, made extant. Scaled Creations asks, outside of Star Wars, what movie had practical effects that truly blew you away or made you look at some aspect of practical effects in a new way? Possibly, did they inspire or change the way I work? That's hard to say. But I think the best practical effects that have ever been put into a movie is John Carpenter's The Thing. Yeah. I think I can stand by that statement, that assertion. And somebody asked me a question here. Where was it? Yes. User ZY2HL6NL5N rolls right off the tongue. Says, do you have any films that you couldn't wait to share with your kids? Yes. Every parent goes through this. It is, you succeed at some of them, and you fail at others. I got really lucky on a bunch. Like, I introduced my kids to Tarantino when they were the right age to take in that kind of humor and they could understand it. I showed them The Thing when they were, I think, just 10 years old. That might sound early, but my kids grown up on Miyazaki films. Like, honestly, if your kid is like into Spirited Away at the age of 2.5, they're gonna be able to take The Thing at 10. Spirited Away is like this movie you have to show your kid before they're 3 or after they're 5. If you show them in the middle there, you could really traumatize them. And there were several slumber parties where kids were like upset by my kids' choice of movie to watch. I'm trying to remember. Okay, I had this one I wanted to talk about. Yes! ADHD Media says, one of my favorite behind-the-scenes area has always been Foley. Foley, just for those who don't know, Foley is the replacement or creation of sound effects that the movie camera didn't pick up. Movie cameras and movie sets are geared to pick up dialogue, almost exclusively, because that's the most important it's the most important part of the film. Which means that when someone puts a glass down on a table, that might not have the right sound. And so Foley is the process. Foley artists are the people who populate the film with the sounds of the things happening, footsteps on the ground, doors creaking open, etc. What are some of the experiences you've had in the area of Foley, or some things you've learned about in the Department of Movie Making? I love Foley. I've always been fascinated by it. In the mid-'80s, a film came on HBO called Track Stars, spelled exactly the way you think. And it is, it's on YouTube now. You can watch it right now. And it is a scene from a cheesy action movie, split screen of the scene from a cheesy action movie and 2 Foley artists replicating all the sound effects in that scene. Specifically because you could go through and come up with a glass hitting the table sound and then cut that into the film. Frequently, Foley is recorded in batches so that there'll be basically playing the sounds like instruments to the film when they're watching it to get the timings right. And track stars is a lovely description and depiction of that. I have always loved sound effects and Foley art and what it is that creates a space. A film can be destroyed by bad Foley work, even more than bad sounding dialogue in some cases. I recently met Michael Winslow, the sound effects guy from the Police Academy films. He's a wonderful comedian. He's very funny. I saw him at Sketchfest this year. We talked all about the fact that my hero of sound effects is him and a man named Tom Keefe, who was the sound effects guy on Prairie Home Companion for like 20 years. And they would actually often run him through paces of asking him to invent sounds as they invented a narrative that required sounds to tell the story. But I was going to tell, oh, right, on Mythbusters, I had a really interesting Foley experience, which was, it's early on in the show. So it's like season 2, and Jamie and I we start getting booked for colleges to come speak at colleges. And in those early days, man, it was like every other job came from Michigan. I have flown out of Marquette Airport in the UP 5 times. That's got to be a record for someone who doesn't live there. And we did a lot of college appearances. And when we're doing the college appearances, you want to bring stuff to show for entertainment. So I would often rip high-speed shots. I didn't have a phone back then, right? I would take a high-speed shot from the guys, port it into my editing software, and make a little demo reel of some of our high-speed shots. And we would show up at these colleges and show off funny bloopers, things that we couldn't show on television, and explosions. But here's the thing about a slow-mo shot of an explosion. It's a long shot, right? So like, it's gonna take 25 seconds for you to see this explosion. And because it's a high-speed camera, it's completely silent. And so I was looking at this video and I'm like, I can't play this to total silence. I don't wanna sometimes I'll narrate over an explosion, and I definitely got a couple like that. But I thought we should be able to hear this. And so I looked up in the sound effects library, explosions, not slow explosions. Okay, wait a minute, let me just try this, because iMovie has this, you can just plug in a mic, and I went like that. Then I ported it into the sound part of iMovie, slowed down and pitch shifted it, and got this great, this wonderful slow-mo sounding explosion. I could still detect my own voice in there, but just barely. And then, the next time I was watching a rough cut of Mythbusters, I realized, this is exactly what those guys in editing are doing. Like, that's how all of the slow-sounding explosions in Mythbusters were actually made, by the producer or the editor recording an explosion sound with their mouth into a microphone and then pitch shifting it down, slowing it down, and playing it on television. That was very funny to realize that what I thought was my jury-rigged end run around the right way to do things was actually the exact way that they did the thing. That's comedy right there. Old But Not Dead asks another question. What was the one old school special effect that blew you away when you saw it on screen? Okay, so here we are. I just told the story earlier on in this live stream about discovering film, or taking in film as an aesthetic journey when I'm 17 years old. And I started asking, once I realized that the Philadelphia Story was amazing, I asked my parents, what are some movies that I should absolutely watch? Oh, I've got another one for you. Beat the Devil, a John Huston movie with Gina Lollobrigida and Humphrey Bogart that is basically John Huston, Humphrey, and Gina having a really fun summer in Italy, and somehow a movie comes out of it. It is hilarious, it's absurd, it's ridiculous. Robert Morley's in it, it's great. And then they told me you should watch Chinatown. And I had just started reading Chandler, so I think I saw Chinatown, I'm like 18, 19 years old. And I'm in that scene in Chinatown, the knife slice. We've covered the nose slice in Chinatown extensively on Tested. There's a video of me and Corridor Crew replicating the effect of the knife. There's a video of me actually building that knife. We'll include links in the description. But in the film, at a certain point, Jake Gittes, the Philip Marlowe equivalent, played by Jack Nicholson, is investigating some muckery with the Los Angeles Water Department, and he's beset upon by a little man named Claude, who's played by the film's director, famous fugitive Roman Polanski, and his muscle named Claude Mulvihill is the name of the character in the film, and Claude says to Jack Nicholson, "Hey, kitty cat, you know what happens to kitty cats that stick their noses where they don't belong?" And he puts a switchblade in Jack Nicholson's nose and then yanks it to the right, and blood just sprays all over Jack's face. And I was watching it on VHS, I remember, because I stopped and I was like, I got to see that again. Like, I jumped at that effect. And then this is 1980. There's no such thing as CG then. This was done on set, and I'm like blown away, and I really want to understand how they did it. And so I sat there and, as best I could, frame by framed it through the VHS, which in 1984 was really a process of like rewinding, playing, and then stopping, and then rewinding and then playing and then stopping, and hoping that you can stop at a frame that gives you some information. That's how I did all my early prop research. I built my first Blade Runner gun, making sketches from frozen stills of movies that I had on VHS. What was I talking about? Oh, sorry. Practical effects. Yeah, the Chinatown nose slice is way up there as an astounding, beautiful achievement in film. The other thing that I loved about that effect is that so Corridor Crew and I, we started corresponding, we started thinking about what we could do together, and I suggested the nose slice. They really loved that, so I started researching it, and I started thinking about how we would film it. And when I thought about it, I was like, Polanski has this effect he wants to do. He tells his producer finds someone to build, the prop master builds this prop, which is a knife with the tip of the blade gets out of the way. And then they've got to execute it on set. There's a lot of execution. There's a blood bulb in the operator's hand, and there's a tube that has to be kept out of view of the frame, and there's a knife, and the timing has to be perfect. And that's when I concluded, you know what? It has to be that Roman Polanski held the knife for that shot, because there's just no other person he would trust to do that. It's like when Christoph Waltz chokes Bridget von Hammersmark to death in Inglourious Bastards. Those are Tarantino's hands, because he and the actress, whose name is escaping me right at this second, had total trust. She trusted Tarantino to use his hands in that shot. So I was thinking of this, and I was like, it has to be that Polanski did that. He wouldn't trust anyone else to screw it up and to get the timing right. And then I found an article that said that was actually true. So I was happy that I got that bit right. Thank you for watching that video. Are you as sick of the tosses to membership as I am? Good, because here's a brand new one that I recorded today, and it's nice and short. There are 3 tiers to Tested membership, and they all offer awesome stuff. Find out about it by clicking the join link below. We'll see you there.